Hello and good evening, everyone. David Cashman here from SEB Housing, and tonight we're going to run the lottery for the 2 affordable condominiums at 92 Brush Hill Road in Milton. So we'll get going with that lottery drawing in just a little bit here. Before we do that, let me just give you a little bit of background information about the lottery and how many folks we had apply. How the lottery is going to be conducted, and some of the things that you can expect going forward. As we have households filter in, I'm going to just wait a second to get started. I want to just type a few things in the chat bar to the right of where you see me so that you understand how you can get in touch with me. So this is on simultaneously on conference call. So if anyone wants to also take advantage of that, the number is 425-436-6200, and the code is 862-627. So that's in the chat bar to the right of where you see me. You don't have to. That's just an option if you want. You're perfectly welcome to continue watching on YouTube. Keep in mind that if you are watching on YouTube, there is not an option for viewers to speak, but you can certainly ask questions and are encouraged to do so just by typing them into the chat bar where I just typed the conference call number. So let me just show you exactly what I'm talking about here. So I'm happy to have any questions that people may have. I'm probably going to spend close to 10 minutes, maybe 12, just giving you a little the background information about the lottery and what to expect. I'll field any questions before we do the drawing. Once I'm in the middle of doing the drawing, I won't be taking questions just because I need to focus on doing the drawing itself. But then after it's done, I'll certainly stick around for a moment to see if there are any questions from households. So let me just see if there's anything else I should cover. Yeah, no, I think that's it. So let me just give you a little bit of background. So we'll do the drawing in a bit. 2 units, right? A 2-bedroom unit and a 3-bedroom unit. That's what's at stake here. There were a total of 18 completed applications for the lottery. So there'll be 18 households in the lottery. As you may recall from the info session or reading the information materials, all households should have a lottery application number. Okay, if you're watching this right now thinking you're in the lottery and you don't have one of those numbers, that's A dot blank blank blank, let me know, or we can discuss after, or actually let me know now. Along those same lines, if anyone forgot their lottery application number and wants to know it before I do the drawing, please feel free to type in your name or first name and last initial, and I'll see if I can get that number for you so you know which number you're listening for. Remember, when I do the drawing here in a little bit and I pull the numbers out of the box, I'm doing just that. I'm pulling the numbers which are listed on little note cards. I'll hold them up to the screen as I go so that you can see them, but I'm not calling out anyone's name because, we like to protect everyone's, identity and privacy. So let me just give you a little bit of a breakdown, and let me just say this as well. Everything that I'm about to give you, I'm going to send to you when I send you the results later tonight, or possibly tomorrow morning. I hope by tonight, okay? So you don't need to be writing any of this down or trying to memorize it. It's all going to be in the document that I send to you when I send around the waiting list, which again, I hope will be later tonight. So I said there's 18 households in the lottery. If you may recall, when you filled out your application and you got your lottery application number, you had to say what type of household you were, a type 3, a type 2, or a type 1 household, which generally corresponds to the number of bedrooms, like your household size and the number of bedrooms that the program says you're suitable for, that you need. Stated differently, a type 3 household is suitably sized for a 3-bedroom unit and gets priority for that unit over smaller household types. Type 2 household is suitably sized for a 2-bedroom unit, and a type 1 household is suitably sized for a 1-bedroom unit. On the document I send you and in the information pack, which you may be well familiar with from having read it when you were applying, you may remember seeing that how the waiting list will be constructed. And you'll see that for the 3-bedroom units, those type 3 households will be higher on the list, followed by the type 2 households, followed by the type 1 households. And on the 2-bedroom list, the type 3 and 2 households will get equal priority. Okay, they'll be higher up and type 1 households will follow. And again, that's because the program makes us implement these priorities. They want to make sure households are not overhoused. In other words, living in a unit that has more bedrooms than they actually need. What that also means is that when I do the actual lottery drawing, neither you nor I know what it means in real time, which can be a little anticlimactic. It's certainly generally better to be called earlier than later. But if you're a type 1 household and you're the very first drawn, you're not going to be the very first on either waiting list, because these are all bigger units that are going to have priority for larger household types. But I don't know your household type when I'm doing it, and other people watching don't know it. So, when I do the actual drawing, I don't know where you're going to be on the wait list, and you don't know in that moment either. But the good news is that I will get the waiting list to you hopefully by the end of tonight, or worst case tomorrow morning, and those will be ordered top to bottom. So you'll have a 2-bedroom wait list and a 3-bedroom wait list, and you'll just find where you are on the wait list, and you'll see where you are relative to other households that are in this lottery. So it's not until you get that document that you'll be able to see, okay, I'm number 5 on the 2-bedroom list, and I'm number 7 on the 3-bedroom list, or whatever it may be. Let me give you just a few more details about each waiting list. So for the 2-bedroom unit, there's no local priority. So for households who live in Milton or work in Milton or have kids attending the Milton schools, doesn't matter whether you meet any of those categories or not. All households will have the same priority in that sense. There's 1 unit. There were 12 applicants. 4 of them were either type 3 or type 2 households. So those households will be higher on the waiting list. I can tell you that now. And 8 are type 1 households. They'll be lower on the waiting list. And then there's also a 3-bedroom unit that does have local priority. So households who live, work, or have kids attending the Milton schools will get priority relative to similarly situated households on that waiting list. There's 1 unit and 10 applicants. 6 of them are type 3 households, 2 are type 2 households, and 2 are type 1 households. Again, I know this is a lot to digest. I don't expect anyone watching this to be memorizing this or taking it all in. It's all in the document that I'm going to send you tonight, as is an illustration of exactly how the waiting lists get compiled and the actual waiting list. Okay, so you get the actual waiting list so you can see where you are, and you'll get the explanation of how they get constructed, so you have a sort of an understanding of how we order them. Now, in any lottery that has local preference, we have to do 2 drawings. We have to do a drawing for the households who qualified for local preference, of which there were 4, and then we do a second drawing, a general pool drawing with all 18 households, including the local preference households. In this lottery, we actually also have to do a 3rd or first preliminary drawing, okay, which it'll be first. We'll start out with it. It's the local preference minority drawing, and the reason for that is because according to the program rules, the number of minority households in the local preference pool needs to be at least as high as the percentage of minorities in the surrounding area. In this area, the percentage of minorities is 33.4%. I stated there were 4 households who qualified for local preference. None of them said they were minority. So therefore, to start out, the very first thing we'll be doing is there were 12 households who identified as minority for the lottery. Again, none said they qualified for local preference. I will put all of them in a box. I will draw out 3 of them. I will add them to the 4 local preference households. That makes 3 out of 7, okay? 12 minority households, take 3 in this first drawing, add them to the local preference pool with the other 4. That makes 3 out of 7, which is 42%, which is greater than 33.4%. So now we have the adequate representation. I will next do the local preference drawing with 7 households. Once that's done, I will add those to the other households who did not have local preference, 11 of them, and so it'll be all 18 in the general drawing. And then once that's done, we'll be done. And it really won't take more than a few minutes. When I do the drawing, I'll put the lottery application numbers, which are just written on little index cards, in my lottery box, which you can't see, but it's here next to me. And so I'll be sort of turning, picking them out, showing them up on the screen. I also need to take note as I go. So bear with me. I'll go as quickly as I can, but obviously being accurate is important. So after I pick each one, I need to jot down a note so that I can then have that when I do the sorting later tonight to create the waiting list. Remember, every household will be on one of the waiting lists, and if you applied for both 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units, and there were a few households who did and were eligible for both, you'll be on both, okay? You may have different spots on both, but if you were eligible for both and applied for both, you'll be on both waiting lists. Okay, I think last 2 notes I want to make before I do the drawing is when I send you around the waiting list tonight, the ones with your lottery application number, you're going to see that some households are highlighted in green and other households are not. The ones highlighted in green will be the ones at the top of the waiting list. There'll be several of them. Now, there's only one unit on each list. There's one 2-bedroom unit and one 3-bedroom unit. The households highlighted in green are going to be immediately invited to move forward in the next step of this process, which is to submit all of the income and asset and tax documentation to demonstrate their program eligibility. Hopefully households watching this or who are in the lottery, when they got their lottery application number, took a look at the document requirements guide and began collecting some of the documents that you're going to now need to submit if you're one of the ones invited to move forward. Remember, to get into the lottery, you simply filled out what your income and assets were, but you didn't have to submit any supporting documentation actually showing that. So that will be the next step for those top households who are highlighted in green. And the reason that we submit or invite multiple households from each list is because in our experience, not every household who we invite will actually qualify or will actually submit everything. So, we want to make sure that we can get a buyer to move forward. And so you just need to keep in mind that if you're not the first, if you're not the number 1 household on the waiting list for either unit, okay, if you're number 2, 3, 4, 5, and you get that invite tomorrow that says, hey, we're inviting you now to move forward in the next step of this process, which is to submit all of your income and asset and tax documentation, that is not a guarantee that you're going to have the opportunity to move forward and buy one of these units. You have to keep in mind that you won't get that opportunity unless you do so and are eligible, and none of the households ahead of you also do so and actually take the unit. Okay, so you're sort of waiting on them. So just please keep that in mind. If you are not number 1 on either of the waiting lists, but you still have one of those higher numbers, you're probably going to get invited, but it is to move forward and submitting all of that documentation to us. But that invite and your response to it and submitting everything and being program eligible is not a guarantee. You have to wait to see what happens with the households ahead of you. Everyone's going to have the same amount of time to do that. You're going to have about 10 days to get all of that documentation to us. So hopefully you've already begun collecting those documents and have a file ready, because there is a lot that's required. Final note before we do the drawing, you have to maintain eligibility all the way up through closing. Okay, so continue to update your bank statements, pay stubs as they come in, so that when you undergo that second review, which is typically right when you get your mortgage commitment, about a month or so before your closing date, you can give us some of those updated documents just showing that, like, you didn't change jobs and your income hasn't changed drastically between, April and, let's say, June or July or August or whenever you're getting close to your closing date. Final note. For the top households who are eligible and get to move forward, just keep in mind at that point, SEB kind of steps, we're still involved in the process, but at that point we take a bit of a step back. We put you in touch with the sales team. They're the ones that will show you the units. You can arrange with them for tours. They're the ones who you'll connect with about reserving your unit, signing a purchase and sale agreement, and ultimately closing on the unit. You're welcome to hire an attorney, and in fact, it's encouraged. A home purchase is the biggest purchase most people make in their lives, and so it's certainly allowed and encouraged. and your attorney may very well then be in touch with the attorney for the sales team to coordinate some of those documents for your closing. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to get ready to do the drawing here. Sorry for the sun in my face. Hopefully it's not quite as distracting to you as it is to me. Try to get that fixed soon. But here we go. Like I said, we're going to do the minority preliminary drawing first. I have 12 numbers right here. Remember that I'm picking 3 of them. Okay, I'm picking 3, and the other ones will go into the general pool, the ones that I don't pick. Okay, that. Pick up the numbers. All right. A.009. A.009. This one is A.002. A.002. And the third final household drawn for this preliminary drawing is A.003. A.003. Okay, so again, those are 3 minority households who did not have local preference, but who will now be added to the local preference drawing to ensure that the representation of minorities in the local preference pool is equal to or exceeds the percentage of minorities in the surrounding area. Okay, so now I've got 7 local preference households. Let me take my other numbers out of the box. Put them in the general pool from which they started. Okay, remember, these are all households who said they didn't have local preference. They're general pool households. Did not get picked in the preliminary drawing, so they go back into the general pool they started. Okay, my 7 local preference households. Mix up the box. Okay, here we go. A.005. Okay, next one drawn is A.007. A.007. A.013. A.013. A.012. A.012. A.002. A.009. A.009. A.003. A.003. All right, that was the local preference drawing, pretty quick. So now we've done the preliminary drawing, we've done the local preference drawing, and now we do the general pool drawing, which again includes every household who's in the lottery. I got all 18. Again, this is every household who qualified for the lottery, whether local preference or not. If you're saying this all feels redundant, you're not wrong, but this is how the program requires that we do it. So this is how we do it. Local preference drawing really only matters on the 3-bedroom wait list. It doesn't matter at all on the 2-bedroom wait list. I recognize that it's hard to figure out exactly what this all means as I'm doing it right now. But the good news is you will have the waiting lists from me, as well as an illustration of how those get created from the lottery drawing, hopefully by tonight or early tomorrow. Okay, so hopefully that should provide a little more clarity. Okay, here's the general drawing, and the first number drawn is A.007. Okay, sorry, I just saw that there were a few questions. I didn't notice those before, so I apologize. Let me go forward with the drawing, and then I'll respond to those. A.004. A.018. A.015. A.013. A.008. A.009. A.006. A.014. Okay, this is going to be the 10th number pick now. A.016. A.017. A.001. A.011. A.005. A.010. A.002. A.003. And A.012. A.012. Okay, that was it. That was all 18 households in the general drawing. So we've done our local drawing, we've done our general drawing, and that's it. Pretty quick. Okay, so questions. How and when were numbers assigned? Numbers, so in terms of how, they're assigned just based on order. So if you're the very first household who completed a lottery application that was eligible with us, you would have been A.001, and we would have just worked chronologically from there. But those numbers have no meaning other than that. And they were assigned as soon as we determined that you were eligible for the lottery. You would have received a letter from us with your lottery application number and a few other details about when the lottery was and your household type and whether you were local preference or not. So hopefully you received that. And then the next question from Teresa, this third pull is for both units. So the pulls aren't necessarily for one unit or another. They're more grouped by our households. In the first poll, well, the first poll was a preliminary drawing, so that doesn't really influence where you are on a waiting list. It's just to add minority households to the local drawing. Okay, put that aside. That was done. The local drawing is just for local preference households, which will have an impact on where they are on the 2-bedroom waiting list. And then the third drawing, it was really the second drawing, the general drawing, is all households, whether local preference or not. But it's not for any particular units. Now, when I have to sort the results, which I'll do tonight, I will then go through and I'll figure out, okay, on the 2-bedroom waiting lists, how many applicants applied for those, where were they pulled in the drawing, which ones were type 3, which ones were type 2, and I will sort them in that fashion. And then for the 3-bedroom units, I'll do the same thing. Which households applied for the 3-bedroom units? I'll start with the local preference type 3 households. They'll be at the top of the waiting list. They'll be followed by type 3 households who weren't local preference, be followed by type 2 households who were local preference, then type 2 households who weren't local preference, then type 1 households who were local preference, and then type 1 households who weren't. So, like I said, when I send you around information tonight, you'll have both the waiting lists and a illustration of how the waiting lists get created from the drawings that I just did. Hopefully that answers it, but I do appreciate that as you're watching in real time, it can be a little hard to figure out what it means. Any other questions? Any other questions? Oh, that's fine too. If you don't have questions now, you certainly know where to get in touch with us. We'd be happy to have any questions as you move along. I will get you the waiting list soon. And again, they'll have details that I went through before I did the drawing. And then some households, a number of households will be getting invited forward shortly to submit all the income, asset, and tax documentation. So, Veronique, should everyone have received it? Well, if you provided an email, and I think everyone in the lottery did, then we would have emailed you back with your lottery application number. Okay, let me see if, hold on a second here. Frank Weber. Veronique, did you apply under the name Matthew Weber? I don't see anyone by your name in our database anywhere. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it looks like we sent you an email on March 23rd that you weren't eligible for this opportunity. And it looks like it would have gone to your husband's email address. So if you want us to also resend that, here, email us Okay, sorry. Yeah, if you want to, you can email us. Someone can resend it. But it looks like that notice did go out that you didn't qualify for the opportunity. Sorry. Okay, Teresa, for the 2-bedroom, are type 2 ranked above type 1 on waiting list regardless of when they were pulled in the lottery? Yep. Yep, on the 2-bedroom, type 3 and type 2 will be above type 1 regardless of when they were drawn in the lottery. And on the 3-bedroom list, type 3 will be above type 2, who will be above type 1 regardless of when they were drawn in the lottery, because the most important factor when you're creating the waiting list is your household type, and if you're suitably sized for the unit. Questions? Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you for tuning in, everyone, and we will be in touch shortly. Hope you have a great night.